The Tank 3 Pro, the smartphone with the biggest battery in the world. On paper, this might be one of the best phones on the market. It's got all the features you could ask for and then plus some, namely a huge battery, a camping light, 2 programmable buttons, and a laser projector. Most reviewers seem to unbox and spend few hours and share their experience. I want to do it a little bit different. I spent almost a week with it, daily driving it and using it as my main work phone. My work is heavily dependent on my phone. An average day consists of about 10 to 12 hours of screen on time, and since I'm mostly out on the road, I use it for literally everything. Phone calls, emails, navigation, podcasts, YouTube, all while having both Bluetooth and location service on. So after spending this amount of time, I think I have made some solid conclusions. If you wish to skip through all the waffle, feel free to use the chapters on the timeline to jump to the conclusion. Otherwise, sit down, grab some popcorn, and enjoy. Out of the box, you get the phone, of course, a USB-C to USB-C cable, and a 120 watt power brick. Nothing too fancy or over the top with the unboxing experience, but once you pick it up, you realize it's nothing like you have experienced before. Specs-wise, and starting with the screen, it's a 6.79 inches Full HD 1080 by 2460 pixels with a 120 Hz refresh rate that can be adjusted based on the application it uses and can go down to a minimum of 60 Hz. 16 GB of RAM and has the ability to utilize regular storage and go all the way to 32 GB worth of RAM. A world first and only 23,800 mAh battery that's almost 5 times bigger than my S24 Ultra. It has a total of 5 cameras, a front-facing 50 megapixel camera, and in the back you have a 200 megapixel main camera, 50 megapixel wide-angle lens, 8 megapixels telephoto, and a 64 megapixels night vision, and a fast Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.3. Now, just for reference, and just like I did now, you will see me comparing it to my daily driver, the S24 Ultra. I think it's a good comparison since they are both Android-based and the Samsung being the best-selling Android in the world. Although it's a downgrade for me, it didn't really feel like it, simply because the human eye cannot tell the difference. The biggest example of that is what Sony did with their newest Sony Xperia phone. They opted to reduce the resolution from 4K to 1644p because they realized it's an overkill and it becomes redundant past a certain point. The screen is smooth, consistent, and color accurate. I would say I prefer the color science of the Tank 3 Pro versus the S24 Ultra. The S24 Ultra, although close to real-life colors, seems a little bit dull compared to the Tank 3 Pro. Tank 3 Pro has a better saturation and the colors pop, making it more pleasing to the eyes. Brightness levels are good, and it's bright enough for most scenarios you can think of. And although the company doesn't mention the brightness anywhere on their page, I managed to find a source that says it's around 740 nits, which might seem a little bit low on paper, but it's more than enough to see under direct sunlight with the naked eye. With sunglasses, you might struggle a bit to read text or see details. Overall, a very good screen with almost zero complaints. Normally, this is a feature people always ask for. The Tank 3 Pro gives you not one, but 2 programmable buttons. By default, the first one is assigned to the camping light. You just press and hold and you will see a very bright LED on the back turn on. But you can customize both buttons to any app you desire. I found it a bit difficult to assign more complicated functions like use it as a camera trigger or an action inside an app. So definitely a missed opportunity since you have the hardware but not the software to go along with it. The Tank 3 Pro comes with two powerful speakers. I remember when I was testing the projector, I set it up and I went to the other room to pick up something, and I remember still being able to hear the movie playing in the background. They're louder than my S24 Ultra, but only by a small margin. They opted to place them next to each other, which I thought was odd at first, but it's actually clever since most of the time you will have the phone face down to use the projector, and both speakers will be facing the right direction to emit the highest volume possible. So it does make a lot of sense from a functionality perspective. Although advertised as Android 13, it actually ships with Android 14 instead. I was caught off guard and had to check if I misread the ad, and indeed, it was advertised as Android 13. The UI is smooth and sleek. Although I'm a fan of the Samsung skin on Android experience, as I find my way around it easier, the Tank 3 Pro Android is excellent, clean and minimalistic with very few additions to the original software. I couldn't even find a background other than the two Tank phone branded backgrounds. They do, however, include one game and an app called Toolbox that houses all sorts of useful features that's suitable for outdoor enthusiasts, like a measuring app or a height calculator that can measure your exact altitude without the need for an internet connection. The overall experience is similar to that of the Sony Xperia phones. The software is backed up with a powerful Dimensity 8200 chip, which was buttery smooth. In fact, it was so smooth that it made me wonder if it was better than the Snapdragon chip. Speaking of the chipset, let's talk about the Dimensity 8200. The Dimensity 8200 is made by the tech giant MediaTek, the fifth largest semiconductor company in the world. The chip is 5G ready and has an excellent GPU speed, making it possible to play demanding mobile games. I didn't test any games, but judging from the Antutu score, it can easily play demanding games with a score close to 1 million. As for the average performance, it exceeded my expectations. Coming from the Snapdragon Gen 3 Samsung edition, I was surprised by how smooth the performance of the Dimensity 8200 was. It handled everything I threw at it, from navigation to constant YouTube play in the background, Bluetooth phone calls, and everything in between. I can recall 2 occasions where YouTube crashed, and it was on the first day while setting it up. After the first 24 hours, it turned into a beast. This is partly because the phone will try to learn your behavior and adjust itself accordingly. And if you're wondering how it stacks up against the competition, it sits somewhere between the Snapdragon Gen 1 and Gen 2. The 5G performance is on par with the S24 Ultra. I had absolutely no issues getting 5G signals wherever it was available. And the same thing applies for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Very stable. Now, let's move on to one of the most anticipated subjects, battery. There's absolutely nothing that even comes close to the Tank 3 Pro. I think they were accurate when they named it the Tank. This thing can last for days on end. The first day I got it, which was around the evening time, I transferred my SIM and all my accounts to it, and it took about 3 hours to set it up. The massive background activity took its toll and drained the phone quickly. By the next morning, it was sitting at 71%. But after a day of use, once the phone learned my behavior, it adjusted itself and became a lot more efficient. By my estimate, this phone can last you about 5 days of active use. We're talking about 6 to 7 hours of screen on time. That's a conservative estimate. If you're not using it as heavily as I use it, it can easily last you a week. I remember seeing a comment that said, if the chip is not power efficient, it's a big sacrifice to have such a huge battery with a mediocre battery life compared to its size. So after doing some research, my conclusion is that the Dimensity 8200 is extremely power efficient. In fact, it scores about the same when it comes to battery efficiency versus the Snapdragon Gen 2. Now, let's talk about the projector. I have recently reviewed a 1080p projector that I found on AliExpress, so I have a very fresh memory of what a decent projector looks like in terms of brightness, colors, and sharpness. Now, I was not expecting much since all reviews said that it was a nice toy. Well, I disagree. This is past the point of a toy. It is actually a tool. It is incredible what they did with such a small footprint. First of all, this is a DLP technology, meaning it uses laser to project images instead of using a magnifying glass to blow up a tiny image. When given an ideal condition, that being a dim environment and a good projector screen, the results are amazing. On this projector screen, which is a 65-inch at its widest, I was able to produce respectable, sharp, and color-accurate videos. Of course, it's not like the dedicated projector, but it can definitely stand up to it. This is without a doubt my favorite feature about the Tank 3 Pro. Now, in conclusion, it's a fantastic and a successful attempt at creating a durable, rugged phone that can last you through an apocalypse. This is the third generation, and the company seems to be doing well and have very happy customers. This phone is not for everyone. It's heavy and difficult to use one-handed. And although the camera seems to be good at a glance, when you dig deeper, you will find issues such as slow focus and dull or muted colors. Compared to the S24, it can barely keep up with it. And if I had to give you my opinion on it quickly, I would say it's okay, but it's not the best. It will do the job just fine and capture important memories. And the only redeeming quality that it can offer is the night vision mode. This is a true night vision that uses IR blasters to reflect heat off of objects and pick it up using the camera. Other than that, I really cannot find anything else wrong with it. For people who always ask for a better battery life, well, this is your solution. If you decide to pick one for yourself, expect to turn heads. While using it at work, people immediately noticed, and I got a ton of comments and everyone wanted to check it up and hold it. I would also advise you to pick a screen protector. The challenge with this type of phone is that if you drop it face down, there's a good chance you will crack the screen due to the sheer weight of the phone. And if you think it's too bulky, you also have the option of the Tank 3S. You only get few millimeters less in thickness and about 30 grams drop in weight. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed this style of voiceover videos, consider checking my voiceover playlist. I also upload on weekly basis, so if this is your type of content, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.